Coming up, we take a look at the latest progress at the Tron Coaster as it speeds towards completion. Splash Mountain gets ready to take its final bow. Work continues at Moana Journey of Water. And I just spent a park day chasing steam locomotives around the Magic Kingdom and talked to some folks who are doing the training as we speak. So I'll let you know what we're looking at in terms of a return time frame there. All that and much more on the way. This is Mickey Views News.
All who come to this happy place, welcome.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me.
Before we dive into the news here, first off, how are you guys? I know it's been a little while. I am hard at work on our next historical documentary, which will be going over on our sister channel, Address Unknown. Make sure that you're subscribed and be sure to check out the first two over there if you haven't already. And I'm also working on stuff on the Mickey Views front. I did try to make a video about the whole Iger-Chapek fallout. We don't really have the full story. And it's such a bizarre situation, you know. At first, when we heard that Chapek was out, I was very excited, as you guys saw. But every day since, all these additional details we've gotten, it is a bizarre situation. And, you know, in modern times, it's very rare we ever end up getting the real full story. We really don't even know what happened in 2020. We get all these little bits and pieces and sources and things like that from the media, but really trying to put all the pieces together and come up with what's actually going on, what's the real reason why things happen. It gets very, very complicated. And really, you know, I'm going to do a whole video about this, but my primary contention is I just really don't feel like we have any sort of satisfactory answer on why Bob Chapek is out. You know, we have all these cute, convenient explanations like, oh, people were complaining about him. Oh, the fans didn't like him. Oh, Disney Plus was losing money. The media keeps bringing up this specific thing where Chapek was bragging about the Halloween party sales, but wasn't bragging about Disney Plus losing money. Like, that's obviously not why he was fired. That doesn't make any sense. It had to be something more than that. So it definitely is quite an interesting situation. But today we're not going to be talking about that. Instead, we are going to be taking a tour of the latest happening around the Walt Disney World Resort, which looks so nice right now with all the Christmas decorations up. Starting off over at the Magic Kingdom, this past week I spent a day over at the park right before my blockout window went into effect on my Sorcerer Pass. You know, these last weeks in December, you know, it's super crowded. I am blocked out. I cannot go to the Disney parks, but I wanted to experience a little bit more of the holiday action before I got blocked out. So I got to the Magic Kingdom bright and early, the middle of last week. It was beautiful out. There was great weather. Some viewers were quick to spot me. Here you can see me doing some selfies with the viewers, and you can see I have a film camera. I also have an Address Unknown t-shirt on, and I was using some very special film, a very festive film. It's something called Santa Color 100, which arrived just in time for me to take to do some last minute Disney Christmas film photos, which you'll see featured throughout this video. And I'll be putting the full resolution versions on the Mickey Views Patreon. The park wasn't busy like you'd expect. Mid-December is an interesting time. I think it's a good time to go, especially compared to mid-November, which was absolutely packed this year. I think everyone has the same idea when it comes to November. People think, oh, Thanksgiving's going to be crowded. I'll go the week before or the week before Thanksgiving. And those weeks this year were super crowded, whereas it doesn't seem like that's the same case with Christmas. Pre-Christmas, for some reason, it doesn't seem like it's too bad, especially if you go back, you know, more than a week. If you're doing something sort of in the middle of December, it is not too bad on that front. So pro tip for those of you planning future holiday visits to Disney, December is definitely a good time to go. You get all the holiday decorations, and also a lot of days the crowds aren't too bad. Also, it's good to go to the Magic Kingdom on a day like this where there's a Christmas party happening that night, because even if you're not doing the Christmas party, you're going to be able to take advantage of the fact that there will not be a lot of people in the park in the morning and in the afternoon, which definitely helps a lot. Average wait times all morning were 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, things like that. Not bad at all. So after taking some photos of the main area here, as you've been looking at with the sunrise and the castle and all that awesome stuff, you know me, I beelined over to the People Mover in the middle of Tomorrowland, which was a walk-on. I think it was the walk-on like the first 3 hours in the morning. You could just walk right onto the attraction, no line at all, which was awesome. You guys know why I always go straight there. It's because I want to get footage of the latest happening from above, looking at the Tron Coaster site, which I feel like we've been talking about forever. This Tron Coaster, it's been literally 5 years, over 5 years since this thing was announced. So as I'm approaching the Tron Coaster from the People Mover, I see plumes of steam puffing from behind the trees. The train was moving through the tunnel, which we've covered the construction of for years on this channel. You can see the pathway by Tron. Looks like it is quite close to completion. They still have some stuff to do on the walkway over to Fantasyland, but besides from that, they were rinsing parts of the pathway, making sure everything was perfect. And here you have the Walter E. Disney locomotive heading through the Tron area. So great to see it finally back in action here, at least partially. They are doing training right now with the system, so guests aren't on it just yet. I breathed in some of the locomotive steam because it came up like right as I was going towards the Space Mountain area, so that was interesting. It rises right up, to the People Mover track. So I haven't experienced that in a long time, so definitely very, very cool. Focusing on the current status of the Walt Disney World Railroad before we loop back around to talking about Tron and the latest news there. So first I assumed when I saw the Walter E. Disney, I assumed it was the only one running on the track at that time, right? We haven't even seen one train operating on the track for years and years. I was like, okay, there's one testing. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to time it. I wanted to film it coming into one of the stations for this news report. And what happened is I was running across the park. I did this like 5 or 6 times. I was running from station to station to station. And as I approached each station, I could hear the train. And I was like, oh, it's already at the station. I got to go to the next one. So I was trying to beat the train around the Magic Kingdom. After way too long of chasing around this phantom train, I realized there's actually 2 of them running simultaneously around the Magic Kingdom. So I said, okay, I just need to be patient. So I hung around the Barnstormer area where you have the Fantasyland/Storybook Circus station. And for many cycles, I was filming the locomotives going through, as you can see here in all their glory. What they were doing specifically while I was filming this day wasn't just run-of-the-mill training with the engineers and conductors and cast members who are going to be running the stations. Aboard the Walter E. Disney train were what appear to be 3 Imagineers. They have Imagineering merchandise on and everything, and one you can see has a bunch of audio gear all set up while riding the train. That Imagineer, I believe, was programming the updated Walt Disney World Railroad spiel, the narration you hear as you go around, which will now include a new section talking about Tron. So that is what you're seeing being worked on here. Now that is all in place. That has all been programmed. Guests have been hearing it in the park. As the train goes by, you can hear from the speakers and everything like that. So getting to the point of all of this, when is the Walt Disney Railroad coming back? It seems ready to go right now, doesn't it? Unfortunately, I do not expect the railroad back in the immediate future here. Why is that? Labor shortage. The trains especially are a pretty specialized area of operation for Walt Disney World, and the managers who ran the Walt Disney World Railroad, they moved on to other things. It's been years and years and years. Many of the experienced cast members who were engineers, conductors, all the different roles you need to make the trains run on time, many of them left the company and moved on to, other things. And the ones who stuck around, who loved it so much that they're like, you know what, I'll wait it out, they ended up doing odd jobs in other parks for years and years. You also had Disney characters. I don't know if you guys know this, but during the last 2 years, which have been so odd, at certain points, you had some of the characters you see, like Cinderella's friend, she would be temporarily tasked with loading guests on Space Mountain, things like this. It's been an odd last couple of years for, I think, all of us in the world, and also, of course, for cast members, and especially for the train folks at Disney who have been dislocated since shortly after Tron began construction. The trains last carried guests December 2nd, 2018, which is just crazy to think about how long the Walt Disney World Railroad has been down. I've talked to viewers in the park who have told me since the last time they were on the train, they've had kids who are now already in preschool, or they've moved to an entirely different area of the country. They have a completely different life or career than the last time the trains were running. It's really insane how much time has elapsed. It's been a long time. So the issue is with getting the railroad back up, resort-wide, Disney is experiencing a staffing shortage. They have been the last 2 years. We know this. Disney's been doing hiring fairs and all of this, compounding the general short staffing issue you have resort-wide. Here with the Walt Disney World Railroad, you have these highly specialized roles that need to be filled and require lots of training. You need engineers, conductors. You need a lot of engineers and conductors in order to run the trains all day, like Disney will need to when they reopen the railroad, as Disney expects there to be big lines and crowds as soon as they reopen reopen the railroad because lots of people have very much missed this. And to make matters worse, you have management and the higher-ups doing this whole hiring freeze thing. To what extent this is affecting operations and, specifically the Walt Disney World Railroad, we really aren't sure, but that's definitely not helping. And to make matters even worse than that, you have the broader factors at play where Disney is having greater difficulty securing money. If you look at the macroeconomic situation, interest rates, borrowing from banks, things of this nature, it's becoming more and more expensive for companies to borrow money. And even on top of all of these concerns, you also have Disney's stock price, which has fallen precipitously. You also have instability in management right now. You also have negotiations going on with the cast member unions, where there's a lot of issues going on there with the negotiations on that. So Disney's having issues hiring cast members. Also, the existing cast members want to be paid more, and Disney can't replace those cast members, so they basically have to do, what the cast members want while trying to get the best deal. And then at the same time, you also have all these broader macroeconomic issues, and you also have the guests who are increasingly becoming priced out. They're experiencing financial hardship where they're like, maybe we won't go this year. It's becoming too expensive. So from every level, you're just set up for this situation where it makes sense why Disney's stock price has fallen a lot. As I'm sort of explaining all these factors of how complicated it is just to get this one train back up and running, this railroad attraction back up and running. It is insanely complicated stuff. But on the bright side, Disney doesn't have much choice in the matter. They have to get the railroad open because, for park operations sake, capacity-wise at the Magic Kingdom, they need another attraction to open. We're going to get Tron, which will add capacity, but Splash is closing, so they need the railroad back up soon. But given the deal with training and the hiring issues, I would say expect it to be February when we see the Walt Disney World Railroad come back, or the spring, perhaps the spring. We know Tron is supposed to open sometime around April, with previews likely in March. It's unlikely that Disney's going to be running the trains with guests through a construction site, so it's likely that we see the Walt Disney World Railroad reopen once the Tron area is all done and it's getting ready for or is already in previews, and that sounds like the March area. So I'd say February or March here for the Walt Disney World Railroad. I just don't want to say any sooner because I don't want those of you heading down this January to be disappointed in the event that the railroad is not back up yet. They are facing some challenges here, but the folks at the railroad are super, super excited. They're back to their dream jobs. It's just so great to see. They're definitely very excited. You can very much tell. Now it's just a matter of getting everybody, all hands on deck, so that they can operate the trains all day, every day in the Magic Kingdom, serving guests, because there are going to be some big, big crowds. A lot of us who want to ride the Walt Disney World Railroad again, and we are very, very close. But just hold out a little bit longer because it does look like there might be a few delays and things that they need to work out here insofar as training, personnel, all of this, but definitely on the park operations end, there is direct incentive to get this thing open as soon as possible. And I have to say, just having the trains moving around the Magic Kingdom, it's already added a level of kinetic energy and excitement for the guests and the cast members in the Magic Kingdom. You can tell it is palpable. It really does make a difference, and it's just so core to the identity of the Magic Kingdom, to Walt's dream. The train was a huge, huge part of the inspiration for Disneyland and why Walt wanted to do it at all. So having it back here is definitely very meaningful, and it really does feel like, wow, things are returning to normal here, which is so, so great to see. Hopping back over to the news at Tron, as I was showing you, the guest pathways, it looks like, they're really far along. They were cleaning off the pathways. It really seemed like you could walk on them right now. It looks like a lot of that is totally complete, and they're just washing it down, doing a final rinse, and it is good to go. As I said, they're still doing some work on the pathway that's going to go over to Storybook Circus. They are still working on that. You'll also notice the planter in the middle there where the Tron signage is going to go. They're doing some thematic elements on that right now. Also, the Tomorrowland Arcade with the slimmed facade. Looks like they have a little bit of paint work still to go there, but besides that, not much else. Disney says Tron is going to open spring 2023. That is the official opening we have right now, is spring 2023. Word on the street among sources and people online is that the official opening will likely be in April, with previews for annual pass holders, DVC, Club 33, things like this lying in March. So that is likely what we're going to see in terms of time frame here. To me, it seems like based on the rate of progress here, they could start previews earlier than March. Maybe I'm still being too ambitious in terms of when Tron can get open here. It's just taken forever, and I don't know why. Evidence the attraction is very far along. We actually got a sneak peek inside thanks to a leaked video from Backdoor Disney Disney on Twitter, where you can see the virtually completed interior queue area. It is great anytime we get views inside this Tron Light Cycle building, because usually I'm just judging based on the rate of progress on the outside. So to actually see what's going on the inside here, really, really cool to see. That looks awesome. Think about it, guys. We are going to be walking through that queue, hopefully quite soon here. Very, very interesting stuff. While I was over at the Barnstormer filming the trains, from that side, I was also watching workers put up the railings. And those railings along the flyover guest pathway, they were rumored to be one of the major supply side holdups for completing this attraction. So seeing all those go up is another sign that we are getting quite close here. With those going in, with pathway work nearing completion, we are definitely almost there. Also, some signage near the entrance to the interior queue section has been installed, advertising the attraction sponsor Enterprise. Tron is just about there. It looks so close to ready. Disney's still saying spring though, so it looks like we'll have to wait a little bit longer, but that is what is happening at Tron. One other interesting news item over in Tomorrowland, there's a new policy over at Space Mountain. If you guys recall, last month I covered the first Very Merry Christmas party, and I filmed that awesome Christmas overlay they're doing on Space Mountain. I filmed that with my vlog camera. It was on, this grip that I hold and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, since then, Disney has implemented a new policy where Disney states via these signs as you enter, quote, handheld or loose articles, including cell phones and cameras, are not permitted while riding. Items must be secured on the person, in vehicle storage pouch, or left with a non-rider. This new verbiage has led to a lot of concern online over, is Disney trying to crack down on content creators by banning cameras on Space Mountain, something like this. According to my sources, that is not what's happening here at all. This is not a pilot program to go after content creators and implement this same policy at every single attraction across Walt Disney World. I believe what caused this is that there was some sort of incident on Space Mountain recently where a guest was not paying very good attention, dropped something, perhaps their phone, and it struck another guest, which prompted Disney to add stricter safety measures to this ride in particular. I would like to ask Disney to extend this rule to another attraction where it definitely should be added, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in Epcot. The way that attraction is with the G-forces and how it spins you around, it's very unpredictable. And even for me, someone who's been filming attractions for 10 years, like half my life, it is difficult to hold on to your phone. It is difficult to hold on to a camera because you are getting whipped around so fast. It is a legitimate challenge to film that attraction. So I think this rule could and probably should be applied elsewhere, especially at an attraction like Cosmic Rewind. Just my opinion there. If Disney's gonna apply restrictions to filming the attractions at all, I think that Cosmic Rewind is a more deserving candidate than Space Mountain. Let me know what you guys think. It's interesting with Space Mountain because there's really not a whole lot to film. Usually it's completely pitch black and in the dark. I'm wondering if this has something to do with the holiday overlay. Maybe a guest was filming the holiday overlay with their phone, and that's when this all unfolded, where someone dropped their phone and it might have hit another guest, something like this. That might be part of it. Who knows what exactly is going on there, but I thought you guys would like to hear about that. Also in Magic Kingdom news, we have Splash Mountain, which we now have an official closing date for. I am very sad to see this attraction close. It was always one of my favorites. I actually got to ride it last week while I was there that day with my dad. He was around, so we were able to do that attraction one last time. I remember riding it with him when I was a kid and all that, so that was a very good memory to do that one last time. Splash Mountain closes permanently at Walt Disney World January 23rd, 2023, which means your last chance to ride Splash Mountain at Walt Disney World is January 22nd, 2023. After that date, it'll be closed for good, and it'll begin undergoing this transformation into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which Disney has been teasing for years and years and giving us a lot of art and news about over time. We got a new piece of art alongside this closing announcement for Splash Mountain, which I think Disney posted perhaps to say, hey, this ride will have animatronics, Braden. I don't know if that's what they meant by that, but looking at that art, you can see it does appear that there are a lot of animatronics in that scene. I've been a vocal critic of the update to Splash Mountain, especially because I was hearing from sources in 2021 that many of the animatronics, in fact, over half of the current animatronics, will simply be ripped out because Imagineering has not been given the budget to fix all of them, and there'll be very few new ones added. I do believe that the budget has improved, at least slightly. This art does seem to suggest that. Again, though, as I was talking about with the Walt Disney World Railroad and the difficulties they're having there, there's all these macroeconomic forces at play where even if in the 11th hour Disney decides to do more with this splash update, it's going to be happening heading into what could be a very rough time economically for the world, where in the event there is a serious recession, we're going to see Disney cut down on operating expenses quite severely, and chief among the operating expenses is of course labor. And before Disney goes in and starts cutting labor, which they're also in desperate need of, as I also talked about in the railroad segment, before they get to that, the first thing they're going to cut is capital expenditure. That's what we saw in 2020. Capital expenditure was the first to get cut at the parks, which I believe is what will happen again if we do see some sort of major economic downturn. So I am kind of worried that what we're going to see happen is we're going to see Splash close, Disney's going to start dismantling stuff, and then it might be something where the project is on pause and you just have this ultra high capacity attraction, this log flume that guests love, just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, and it becomes a 5-year project. Hopefully that'll not be the case. That's sort of like a worst case scenario, but all this is to say that the Tiana update could be better than we expect. The question I have is, is this actually going to go according to plan? But whatever the future holds, Splash Mountain in its current form is permanently closing at Walt Disney World January 23rd. We have no date for the closure of Disneyland's Splash Mountain just yet. Heading over to Epcot, we've got that beautiful crater in the middle of Future World. I still call it Future World. It's Epcot, baby. It's Future World. I'm not going to call it World Celebration. So that area now is called World Celebration. And we finally have a lot of activity going on in this dirt patch. Like, we're actually seeing serious infrastructure go in with the Communicore Hall and Plaza. That went vertical so fast. They've been doing tons of work on that. That's going to be the new festival center for the park, which is going to host events and exhibits corresponding with the various Epcot festivals you have throughout the year. And then we have Moana Journey of Water. Now, taking a look at the walkthrough attraction Disney's adding, themed to Moana Journey of Water. It's actually called Journey of Water, inspired by Moana. Anyways, taking a look at the latest work on this thing, you'll see that we actually now have finished rock work, which has all sorts of plants and all sorts of things going on with it. Some really great theming. Imagineering does a great job with this stuff, as you guys can see here. We also have the 16-foot tall Tafiti statue in place that Disney teased at the D23 Expo. It really seems like this whole area is quite far along. The interesting thing with the Moana Journey of Water attraction is Disney's current completion date for this is late 2023. Similar to Tron, it seems this project will be nearing completion or totally complete well ahead of its stated official opening timeframe. Currently, it seems like this Moana thing could be done fall, maybe summer if they tried really hard, but it looks like Disney is aiming for, the safe bet, late 2023 for Moana Journey of Water here. When Disney unveiled the 16-foot tall Tafiti statue a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of commentary, literal comments in the Instagram replies, from fans about this change, saying, what does this have to do with Epcot? Why is this here? We know why Moana is in the middle of Epcot of all places. It's really not that complicated. It's there as an attendance draw. It's a recognizable IP that Disney can say, hey, we have this Moana attraction to draw guests to Epcot and away from their higher crowd, more in-demand parks, those of course being Magic Kingdom and Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's no wonder then why Disney is also talking about adding Moana to the Animal Kingdom of all places, where then it would serve the same purpose of offsetting crowds. Disney knows Moana's popular, so if you put Moana in Epcot and Disney's Animal Kingdom, hopefully that'll draw guests to those parks. If you look past the fact that this Moana water walkthrough attraction shouldn't be going in this location in the middle of Epcot of all places, which was at one time a Living World's Fair, I do have to say, this does look like it could be quite nice. Imagineering does a really good job on this stuff. I was concerned that the statue / topiary thing was going to be really tall. That photo that Disney posted, it looked like it was the size of the whole park, as big as Spaceship Earth. But as you can see from the monorail and from afar and from the aerials and stuff, it's really not too overbearing or anything that crazy. 16 feet tall turns out to not be too crazy insofar as Epcot is concerned. I'm quite interested to see how this is going to turn out. I think it'll be a lot like the middle area you have in Pandora in Disney's Animal Kingdom, where you have a mix of real and artificial landscaping, you have running water, you have atmospheric music, things like this. It should be quite cool. That being said, there was definitely a better spot to put this, that probably being Adventureland in the Magic Kingdom. That's the natural fit for Moana, is Adventureland in the Magic Kingdom, and I don't think that Disney even disagrees. I think they know that's the best place for it. There was a rumor at one point they were going to do a volcano roller coaster themed around Moana and add that to the Magic Kingdom in the the Adventureland area, but instead we're getting these much smaller attractions that are cheaper for Disney to do. They aren't as asking insofar as the balance sheet is concerned, and Disney is putting them not where they belong, but rather where Disney wants to attract crowds. And I think this definitely contributes to that lack of cohesive theming that we're seeing across the resort, where it seems like things are sort of just being thrown willy-nilly all over the place for short-term attendance draws, which is definitely not the right way to do things, I would say. So that's what's going on with the Moana Journey of Water attraction in Epcot. Aside from Moana and continuing work on the Communicore structure, there isn't anything else of note in the crater at this very moment. It's still a crater, but now at least it has some nicely themed Imagineering rocks rising out of it. So late 2023 for Moana Journey of Water. Also in Epcot today, 3 years after being announced at the D23 Expo, finally, you guys probably forgot about this, the DuckTales World Showcase Adventure has finally opened. If you recall, in past incarnations of this attraction, when it used to be themed to Kim Possible, you'd be given a special phone where you could interact with the various pavilions, you could make things move, activate all sorts of cool effects. Now, all this can be done from your own phone using the Play Disney Parks app. A really cool activity for families and for kids who want to do phone-based activities while they're at Disney during their vacation. Personally, I'm someone who's like, the less phone use, the better. You know, I'm already doing all this content creation stuff in the park, so anytime I don't have to use my phone, I don't have to be looking at a screen, I can actually take in the moment. I definitely prefer that over doing all this screen-based stuff. That's part of my contention with Genie Plus and all this phone-based stuff in the mobile order. It's just like phone constantly. You know, you're supposed to be on vacation, right? So if you do want to use your phone though at the parks, I mean, let's be real, we all use our phone at the parks. You can use your phone in conjunction with the Disney Parks Play app, and you can actually interact with the pavilions, make things move, do this World Showcase adventure, and the effects are really, really cool. I have not done this new version yet, but judging by the folks who have done it so far, and based on the photos, it looks like a lot of fun. So last up in the news today, over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, I was over there relatively recently. I was walking around, and I look over the wall at the table service that Disney is going to be adding to Toy Story Land. They announced this forever ago. Anyways, I'm looking over the wall and I see all this really nice Toy Story Land theming. And I love Toy Story Land because the theming, it's very custom, it's very clever, it's very highly detailed, it's interesting, it's very creative, it's a lot of fun to check out. It's just classic Imagineering. I love Toy Story Land, and I know that Toy Story Land is a value engineered sort of budget land that doesn't cost Disney a lot to put together. You know, Slinky Dog Dash, is it like the end of the world? No, but I think it is a very, very solid attraction. It is a great attraction. Swirling Saucers, I'm not a huge fan, but just the atmosphere of that land for what it is, I think it's really, really cool. Also, the box tarts, those are really good. You have over at Woody's Lunchbox. And now we're getting this restaurant, and I was looking over the wall and I was seeing all this theming that was going in. They are finally theming the exterior of the table service restaurant that's been sitting over there, partially completed, unthemed for several years at this point. So the news here is that Disney has given us a first look inside with some brand new photos. We got 4 photos, so they're sort of showing the walls, the highly themed walls. You know, yeah, those are decals. The ceiling, you got cool stuff going on. They do a lot of cool ceiling stuff in Toy Story Land, I've noticed in particular. And then you got all sorts of other things going on, some cool theming in there. Fans were not giving Disney the greatest feedback in the replies to this post Disney put up because, you know, it's not due to any issue with the theming itself, but some fans are upset because what happened is that Disney promised that they would get this restaurant open in 2022 by the end of the year, and that did not happen. And now, along with the posting of these new photos inside of the restaurant, Disney announced that it'll be opening spring 2023. So yet another project that has been delayed, and I would not be surprised if, like the railroad situation, it had something to do with personnel, because you need to hire chefs, you need to hire all sorts of people, wait staff, you actually have to put together the menu. I'm sure Disney's working on all that right now, but they definitely could have been working on it earlier, and this thing's been sitting dormant for years and years. This thing could have opened in 2020, 2021, much earlier if Disney prioritized it, but it wasn't a big priority for Disney, but thankfully we are getting it here, but we are gonna have to wait a little longer. So spring 2023 for the table service restaurant coming to Toy Story Land at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Just such a crazy time at Disney right now. Hopefully all this is resolved for the better, and the economic stuff I'm talking about, you know, it's not as bad as people think it's gonna be, and everything's smoothed over and everything's fine. But I think as we've seen for a good little while now, that has not been the case. You know, people have expected the worst, and that's what's happened. Hopefully at a certain point that'll stop being the case and things will get better, but I definitely would not have your expectations too high insofar as Disney's future capital investment is concerned. You know, adding a bunch of stuff to the parks. Definitely manage your expectations on these fronts, and there is some stuff to be very excited about coming into 2023 here, especially with the railroad and Tron. These are things that we've been talking about for so long. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe with those notifications on. Also, if you enjoyed the film photos that I showed in this video, I will be dropping those and many more unreleased film photos that I've taken for the holidays on the Mickey Views Patreon page to our supporters over there as a special Christmas present. In a little bit here, I'll be dropping those on Christmas, and they'll be in full resolution. They'll be downloadable. You can use them as wallpapers. You can even make a print of one for personal use if you'd like. And if you don't want to support Mickey Views directly that way, absolutely no problem. Just watching the videos is awesome. And you can also follow Mickey Views on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to catch all the photos as they continue dropping, as I continue dropping these film photos throughout the Christmas and holiday season here. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you all so much for watching. From the Mickey Views Magic Studio, this is Braden. I'll talk to you soon. Have a magical day.